Hi, this is your host, Quanisha Green, your Black Woman CEO coach and the founder of the Black Woman Rise movement. And welcome to the Black Woman CEO podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping Black women entrepreneurs to get paid to do what they love, own their time, and achieve financial freedom. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey there, this is Quanisha, and I am really excited about today's episode where we have Tara Pringle Jefferson talking about self care and success. So, Tara is a writer, speaker, and self care coach, and the founder of Bloom Beautifully, which is a self care subscription service that gives women bi monthly care packages alongside a community of support. I've been getting the package, the subscription, almost since she started it. I think I took a hiatus for like 3 months while I was on maternity leave so I could tend to the baby, and then started my subscription back. And I'm so glad we're covering this topic. You'll get to hear how she takes care of herself as well as her strategies for taking care of yourself while you're building a business, right? And being a successful Black woman CEO. And the reason why this topic is one that's dear to heart because one is something that I personally struggle with. But when you think about Black women and self-recovery, choosing wellness is an act of resistance. You know, every day as Black women, we face countless acts of violence against our personhood. And you may be listening and you're like, Quenisha, that's a gross exaggeration. But consider this. We are told by popular media and culture that our skin color, body shape, hair texture, and a plethora of other physical and behavioral attributes associated with our race and culture are undesirable, unworthy, and inferior. And so this is the reason why our call to action to simply matter is important, right? Aside from just saving our lives. So while we hold, multiple markers of identity besides race and gender, these experiences do start to compound as we encounter other attitudes regarding gender, ethnicity, sexuality, and class, and so forth. And so whether we're conscious of it or not, we internalize these viewpoints. And so, how do we start to guard ourselves from these constant assaults against our womanhood, right? And there's many ways that, of course, you can tend to self and choose to wellness, but also self care is such an important part of it. It's actually a revolutionary act. Our Black womanists like Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde, who really calls for us to resist white supremacy and sexist oppression through actually self actualization and really putting self actualization at the center of our daily lives. And that through that empowerment and strengthening and service of ourselves and each other in the future, that empowerment actually is a result of all that over time. And so, as Black women, this pursuit really boils down to us reclaiming ourselves and each other, and there's a power in that choice to do so. And so when we think about self recovery or self care, let's start to think about it from a more empowering stance and not just, as a friend of mine says, Aisha, who's also a self care expert, which I'm hoping to have her on the podcast soon, that, let's not focus on just the outward things, the manicures and getting our hair done, but deeper transformational work that we need to do as a focus of self care. So sit back and relax because Tara Pringle Jefferson is going to share her story, her journey from being a young mother, growing a business, facing microaggressions at work, to becoming a self-care expert. And you can say even facilitator through her subscription service, but also her almost daily, weekly work that she does to promote self-care in her community, managing her Facebook group to make sure that women, and even particularly women of color, we are taking care of ourselves. I am so excited today to interview my good CEO friend, Tara Pringle Jefferson. Hey, Tara.
Hey, how are you?
I am well. I'm so glad that we actually get to formally have an interview versus a call.
Yeah.
So happy to have you here. So I'm going to let Tara introduce herself, even though you will have her official bio in the notes. But before she does that, I do want to say how I met this marvelous soul. So I was scouting for the Happy Black Woman podcast, and I was the Happy Black Woman program manager there. And that's how I kind of officially connected with you, right, Tara? Reaching out to you about being an
That's
interviewer
right.
there. Although I've been
That's
stalking you, this is my confession. I've been stalking you on Twitter years before that. So that's actually how your name wound up on the list, because, my whole thing is, Black women entrepreneurs. So Rosetta was like, hey, why don't you make a list? And I instantly thought, Tara Pringle Jefferson needs to be on this list for the first season of Happy Black Women, when you were doing the Young Mommy Life and sharing your story about how you went, and I know you'll probably share that in a minute, but how you were a young mom and starting your business. And after that, after I kind of talent scouted you for the podcast, I reached out. And everyone, this is a lesson here. So Tara was having her first, I think, your self-care retreat, or might have been your second year. And I was looking like, oh, my gosh, I would love to connect with her. And I sent you a DM or Twitter. And I just said, like, hey, I see you having your self-care retreat. Just wanted to know if you were still looking for any speakers or any guest blog writers on the topic of self-care, because I was, talking at that time about how Black women can take charge of their life, and we decided to connect for a connection call, and then we've kind of been best friends ever since then. So listen, people, don't be afraid to reach out and connect with folks, because you never know, like, who you just meant to know, right?
Exactly, yes.
So that's my, like, how I met you. I knew you win story.
Yeah.
So tell us, though, so who are you, Tara? Who you be? If you can describe yourself, first beyond what you do, so that we can just know a little bit about you and your world and your essence.
Yeah. Well, can I just say, like, I think I'm basically like a frustrated stand-up comedian. Like, let me just say that first off the bat. Like, I really feel like I could kill it at like an open mic night. So let me say that first. I do all this other stuff, but I'm like a comedian at heart. Well, I think that, and I love this question too, because I think a lot of times we do describe ourselves as who, what we do versus who we are. And I will say, for myself personally, like, I am, without a doubt, I'm a comedian, right? I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not, interested in, bringing that little bit of joy to somebody's life. And I think that goes along with, what my superpower is. My superpower is connectivity with women and being able to look into, somebody's life and say, okay, I can connect you with this person, or, you should be a part of this community because, you can get exactly what it is that you need here. And so my strength, what I, bring to the table in every room that I'm in is that I have that ability to look at people, see what, how I can help them almost immediately. And so I just, I'm very empathetic. That's just who I am in a nutshell. And I think that's something that has really, it's really driven me, in my career and what I've chosen to do as a business.
I love that, and just like the story I just shared, like, you were so open to connecting. So I love you said that connection piece, and I love the comedian part of it, because I think before I even reached out and me doing kind of more research just about you to see if it was even appropriate to connect, I read your book. So Tara wrote a book, still available on Amazon, although I don't think you widely market it now, which was The Good Life: Pep Talks for Stressed Solopreneurs, and the book is hilarious. And you tell like your personal journey through this role of solopreneurship. So we'll definitely put that in the show notes. So I want to ask you, what is your mission? What is the work you do? But I think even in you probably telling about the book will still answer that question. So what is it that you do? What do you see as your mission, and how have you kind of tie that into your journey along the way?
Yeah, so my mission really is to help women see themselves. You talked a little bit about my journey as a young mother. I had my daughter my senior year of college. I was 20 years old, and I had my son about 18 months after that. And so I was about 22 years old with two children, just trying to, figure out my way. You know how it is. Figure out, my way through motherhood in my early 20s, while I had, my first real, office job, and I was trying to figure it all out. And I realized probably about 6 or 7 years into my blog that I had started, theyoungmommylife.com, I realized that the heart of everything that I've been posting about is really just my path to discovering myself, so that, I could discover my voice and I could discover what exactly I needed, what womanhood looked like for me. Because I always say, I became a mom before I was a full-fledged woman, right? So I really had to be intentional about creating that space within motherhood for me to say, okay, well, who, like you asked, who am I, outside of this role as a wife and a mother? Who am I besides an entrepreneur? When I'm not working, what do I like to do for fun? And so, I've been on this journey of self-discovery. It started with theyoungmommylife.com. And after a while, I kind of felt like the motherhood angle was really kind of constricting for me. I loved interacting with women who were teen moms and early moms. But I felt like the motherhood label, it was just a little too constricting. So I kind of broadened it with this new venture. And I launched Bloom Beautifully, which is a self-care subscription service. It's a blog, it's an event umbrella. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, but the basis of all of it is self-care. And it's really about helping women to not be invisible to themselves, so that they wake up in the morning and they think about, okay, what is it that I need today? What is it that I'm lacking? What is it that would make me feel calmer or more at peace? And I really want that to be the habit, for all of the women in my community.
Thank you for sharing that. I love how you, one, I love watching it, but you just shared how your journey shifted, right? You started in one area with your business, and as you grew, it sounds like as a woman, and even as an entrepreneur, and you said you kind of maybe felt constricted at, in the mompreneur, space, and not so much being a mompreneur, but also writing about being a mom, that you were able to open it up in a different way and still supporting women, right? And one of those was motherhood. And I love the Bloom Beautifully box. I was one of the subscribers when you launched that. I was getting my, self-care package, right? But still helping us to still walk strongly as just women, mothers, in those different roles. So it was beautiful because you were a young mother. You talked about how you were a mother almost before you became a woman. And how did taking on your role as an expert in CEO play into that, right? All these different, you can say, areas of growth that you had to do along the way.
Yeah, it's continues to be, a special journey for me. I think that I would be a little bit further along in my womanhood journey if I hadn't, taken on this role and launched businesses before I was ready, or, hosted national events before I was ready. But it really, entrepreneurship, becoming, the founder of, I think Bloom Beautifully is my third or so business. But, becoming CEO and crowning myself CEO, right? I'm creating these businesses and doing all of that. I think that it really has helped me grow in my womanhood, because I've had to, understand, okay, how do I deal with a customer who's kind of nasty, has questions, asking it in kind of a nasty way, or how do I deal with, negotiating for prices, or how do I deal with, my vision not quite coming to fruition, the way that I would like it to. And so all of these things, I'm telling you, and everybody listening to this, they already know that it stretches you and it makes you it forces you to become a little more confident in your voice and your vision and what it is that you want for yourself and your business. So I think that becoming, launching these businesses and doing all of these things, it was the best thing for me.
What a journey. So what made you to even decide to take that leap, to even start a business?
Yeah. Well, I know that I've only had, one kind of traditional 9-to-5 job. And I think, all things considered, it was a pretty decent job. But, I experienced a lot of microaggressions at work, and you're sitting in the office and they're telling a joke, and I'm thinking to myself, that sounds racist, and being the only, young black woman in the department, it was just, it just kind of gave me a sense of maybe there's someplace else. There's someplace else that I can take these talents, and I can flourish, in different soil, so to speak. And so I decided, to kind of start my own garden, right? Like just to bet on myself and plant some seeds and see what bloomed.
The experience you just named was similar to my experience. It was experiencing those microaggressions, right? Being a young leader. And I know a lot of our Black women CEOs have a similar experience. Actually, the statistics are showing, right, basically our lived experiences where many Black women are facing bias, right? Even if it's that unconscious bias, right? Like even if it's not, say, that very overt in your face racism, it's those very subtle racisms of feeling underappreciated, undervalued, being overlooked, right, despite being highly credentialed and qualified. So I know our listeners are like, yes, I get it. I get the experience. So, you launched a business. You were obviously already young, a young mom, a young entrepreneur. So what were some of the early challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I think money was always an early challenge, but really trying to figure out, what I wanted the end result to be. And I think that I've always been very focused on growing a business that was also beneficial to people. It wasn't just a purchase. It wasn't just an exchange of funds, or it wasn't just, you show up here and I get you show up to one of my events and I get the pleasure of, looking out at a room full of, a sold out crowd. But it's really, I think one of my main challenges is to really figure out how do I balance, I need to make a profit. That's the whole point of business, is to make a profit. But I also want to keep my business soulful. And I think that sometimes, it's hard to figure out how that will mesh. But I really want people who interact with me, who interact with my business, I want them to know that there is a living, breathing person on the other end of these transactions, and that person, cares deeply about them. When I'm selling, my self-care subscription box, it's not just, here's a package of, body butters and, you go about your day, take a bath. But it's really about, okay, how do you use these items to create space for yourself in your own life? And so I really try to pour myself into my business. And that can be difficult because, when you do that, right, it's a tendency to take everything personally because you pour so much of yourself into your business. So I've really had to learn, this is personal, this over here is personal, this over here is just business.
So can you share some more tips around that? Because, our listeners are women who want to build a business that will allow them to do what they love, and they desire to work from home like you do, to own their time, achieve financial freedom. But part of it is also leaving a legacy, right, to make a difference. So I know you gave one example, but, if you had to maybe like the best strategy, or maybe share just one or two or three strategies, I'm like, share your secrets, Tara, on how you were able to, keep it personable and still try to detach, but let people know that, like, hey, there's a person behind this business, right? It's not just a website, right? It's not just a subscription service.
Yeah, so I think the best thing that I've done that really has helped me is one, like, I am not in this alone. I wrote that book on solopreneurship because at the time, like, it was just me in the business. I was the accountant, the marketing person, the financial, the mailroom person. I mean, the janitor. I was everything. And I think now, I do have one consultant that works with me, and then, so I'm able to bounce ideas off of her. She can give me feedback in terms of, okay, how do I respond to this? Does this seem like the right thing to say? Am I wording this correctly? So I do have, I mean, it's one person, but man, it feels like 70% of the stress is gone just by having one person who cares about my business the way that I do. So that's the first thing, is that I had to bring on help to help me grow this business and to help me tackle some of these issues that are business related, some that are personal. So that's the first thing that I did. The second thing that I did is I had to kind of mobilize an army. So no matter what your business is, like, you have the ability to mobilize, customers, mobilize your VIPs, mobilize those people so that they can, if somebody has questions about your business, or somebody wants to know, is it worth signing up with you? Is it worth investing in your business? You have an army of people, whether you gather testimonials, whether you have a private Facebook group, whatever it is, but you have people who will go to bat for you and say, yes, I've interacted with her. I've been a subscriber to her service, for a year now, and she hasn't disappointed me yet. So making sure that you take the time. And something that I try to keep in mind all the time is that it's a privilege to have somebody spend money with you. I mean, there are so many businesses, so many avenues that people could spend money, where they can spend their money. I mean, it's really an endless, it's really an endless, list of businesses that they could have, spend money with, but they chose yours. And to remember that is a privilege. And so I know that sometimes we might get a little, frustrated or a little disappointed, discouraged,
right,
because we may not have the sales in a month, but remember that that's 10 people that you want to treat with respect, and it's 10 people that you want to make feel so special. Because if you do that, if you focus on the people that you already have, they will become your ambassadors, and they will do some of that work for you so that you can grow your business and remain true to yourself, and you don't have to spend all of your time marketing and trying to get the word out, because they will take on some of that weight for you.
I love those two suggestions. The first one can be a real challenge for us as Black women due to how we're socialized, right, with the whole strong Black woman image, that we have to do it ourselves. Or something my grandmother would say all the time: if I want something done right, I have to do it myself. And that idea of asking for help or building a team, right, can take a while for some people. Like, we think it has to be, when we reach a certain maybe income level that we can actually bring on a team. And there's so many affordable ways to even do that from the beginning. And it can be a very early investment in your business so that you can't duplicate yourself, or you can get support, right? Like you said, even that one person can open up so much space. And then leveraging the community, right, the customers that you have built. And for those who, I know the women in our community who are listeners might be in that first 1 to 3 years, you can leverage your network, right? It doesn't have to be maybe your clients if you don't have clients yet. But you have people that you worked with, right? Family members, people who just already might be fans of just you, right, before even trying your product, that they can leverage and start building that momentum, those ambassadors that you talked about. So thank you so much for sharing that, and how you were able to really start to, almost build community, right, and leverage community in those different ways, whether it's the team in your business or, starting to utilize the customer base to actually help leverage that and get out there. So with that, so we see how you kind of been able to present yourself in your business as a person, but how have you been able to integrate the work, the business, your self-care, your life, and your family, right? How have you done all that together?
Yeah. I think one reason, that I launched this box, and I'll be completely honest, going into, launching the self-care box, one of my goals, right, as I wanted to help women, get free and find themselves and find their voice, but I really wanted something that would help me stay accountable to me, right? So I cannot, I launched this business because it's like, okay, I cannot sit up here and be online and talk to women about, self-care and taking time for yourself and putting yourself first if I'm not also doing the same thing offline. Like, I can't, it doesn't work. And so I have to, that is built-in accountability for me. So when I feel myself, having some busy weeks and, my self-care is like nowhere to be found, I know, okay, you have to turn this around, because you are the example. You are the one, you're putting this out into the world. And if you can't follow your own advice, it's like, I don't know how long the business will last, right? So I always, it's a way for me to make sure that I continue to take care of myself. And so my favorite, tip, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, we are so busy. So we may not have time for like a weekly spa session, or may not have the money for that either. But what I like to do, what I do every night is I really, have my own little evening ritual. So I will go and all of my candles are in the bathroom now. So I light candles in the bathroom and I shower by candlelight. I turn the light off, light the candles. I have some music playing. I'm like in a real like D'Angelo mood now lately. But that's what I do every night. Like that is my body's, that's the ritual that I've gotten into. So I can just kind of like wash away all of the stress, all of the emails that's floating around in my brain. Every night I light those candles and it's like 15, 20 minutes of me time where, my kids aren't in there, my husband's not, knocking on the door. It's just me, and it's time for that I can take to kind of just relax and exhale from a very, very busy day.
So I love that it's really the idea of walking your talk, right? It's and I think this can be tough when, particularly the way we have businesses nowadays. I think any business, but when you're looking at leveraging the online space, sometimes you don't know if the person that is the face of the brand, which is often the entrepreneur, is actually in alignment with what they're sharing. But one thing I love about you is that you share your journey, you share your challenges. Like, you're not saying I'm a self-care guru, right? You're like, I need my box too, right? I'm still walking this walk. And so, just to let our listeners know, like, it's okay to be transparent that, you haven't arrived and therefore you can be a business coach, right? Or a consultant or whatever it is. That doesn't mean like your business is making six figures. Like, you can still support people or support women in relationships, right? Even if maybe your marriage isn't 100% all the time. So you can still own your expertise walking it, but be very transparent and clear that, like, hey, I'm still a work in progress, or my husband and I have arguments, even though I'm like a relationship psychologist, right? Or your partner, or whatever it is. And so I love that. Still walking your talk is not just about being at 100. It's just like, how can you just be authentic in where you are and letting people know where you are, right? Because that allows the humanity to come in. And I think that goes back to your original point of, letting people know, like, hey, there's a human being here in the business. So, I mean, you have so much going on. You have the new business, it's growing, it's doing well. You have, you do an annual retreat, and you have so many other things that are in the pot cooking around the new business, the self-care business. So how do you go about setting your goals and executing and staying focused in all this?
So I think that the thing that I do to help me with my goals that has probably helped more than anything else that I've done is really trying to meet up monthly with other entrepreneurs who, they're walking alongside this journey with me. So I have a few friends, we meet for coffee, we meet in person, and I have another friend that we have done our monthly phone calls now for probably about 2 years. And these calls and these meetups in person, they keep me on track. When I go to them and I have, a big goal that I'm not quite sure how to accomplish, I'm able to, just kind of bounce ideas off of them, kind of going along with what I said earlier about having somebody, on your team who can give you ideas, because it's very, it's tiring to be the only one who's thinking about your business. It's tiring to be the only one who's coming up with ideas and trying to execute those ideas and keep, all of the processes, going in between. And so having, these monthly conversations with other entrepreneurs, they help me see, okay, this is, and I get inspired by them as well. I can meet up with them and hear about some of the great things that they're doing, and I say, okay, well, that aspect might work for my business as well. And that helps me, stay focused. It helps me, because once we meet up every month, it's like, okay, did you do, how did it go, the thing that you said you were going to do the previous month? How did that work out for you? And, you always want to have something good to report when you meet up. So really just having those people in your life, I really can't stress it enough. Even if you are the only person in your business, make sure you are not the only person that's thinking about your business. You really want to make sure that you are leveraging, your network, and make sure that you are asking for advice and asking people what do they think, because they may have something that's so obvious to them, but you can't see it because you're so close to your business.
I love that. It's really, you're really speaking to the power of mastermind. So whether it's formally or informally, once again, the idea of asking for help or being in community, right? That you don't have to do this alone. Like you said, let me use somebody else's brain for a minute.
Yeah.
To help me think through. So thank you for sharing that. And I know you already shared a lot of your wisdom, but what is one piece of wisdom you would share for the woman who is frustrated building her business and desires to become, a rock star CEO? Or another way to think about it is, what do you wish someone told you when you started this journey?
Yeah. That is a really great question. I think the thing that I have really leaned very heavily on is marking my progress, because it's very tempting to think, okay, well, I launched this business, a year ago. I've only had, 3 clients. I've only had 10 clients or 10 customers or whatever the case may be. And while you always want more as a business, like it's your job to grow, but I think it's very important to mark your progress, because it can be, discouraging. If you're frustrated that your business isn't growing, the way that you want, you need to remind yourself of how far that you've already come. So, one thing that I did, and I really recommend that people get tangible reminders of how far they've come. So whether it's, even just having, a lessons learned journal, or, keeping even a behind the scenes blog, something that's tangible will help you kind of mark that progress. One thing that I did when I launched this subscription box is that I knew, based on how I launched and the pattern of signups, I knew that, I was going to need something, particularly since I was brand new in the subscription box space. I knew that I was going to need something tangible that I could look at and remind myself of my progress. So I purchased a big United States map that I'm actually looking at right now. I pinned it up on the wall over my desk, and every time I get an order, I have a push pin, and I push it in, on that city that the order came through at. So over time, it's my goal to have this map filled up, and I can see every day, it's getting closer and closer and closer. And that's just something tangible that I do, so I can remind myself, most companies do not, make $1 million in sales their first year. They don't make $1 million in sales their second year. It takes time to grow, and that is okay, because you're learning, you're refining your process, you're figuring out, who that ideal client is or that ideal customer is, and you're getting closer and closer to, interacting with all of them every day that you remain in business.
I love it. It's funny how synchronicity works, because I just thought earlier today about, writing some blog or doing a video on the idea that it takes time and to be patient with yourself. So I love that you're giving a tip that, one, it does take time, right? You don't get to millionaire status in a day, or people, we've seen the Facebook ads of I made 6 figures in a month, but you don't know all the work that they did prior to that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
To that level that they generated that many sales in a month. So I love that you're talking about the process, but then your strategy of those tangible things that you can do along the way to keep yourself motivated. So Tara, what is your personal mantra or motto or saying, a quote that you live by to kind of help you stay focused and motivated?
Yeah. So I read an article, and I feel bad that I can't think of who wrote it, but it was I think it was actually Elizabeth Gilbert from Oprah magazine. And it was basically about future you. And so I live my life, right, with the knowledge that, this is 2017 Tara, right? There's there's a Tara out there living somewhere in the year, 2030. and she has everything that I'm praying for right now, right? I really try to remind myself that everything that I'm doing right now, this very moment, is helping me to become that person. And, 10 years ago, I was praying for the things that I have right now. So over time, you're always moving toward future you. And I just keep that in mind every day as I'm working. And it's amazing at how, you can kind of feel your older self pulling your younger self towards them, if that makes sense. It's a little, metaphysical. But every day, like I can feel, I'm getting ready to meet her, and I can't wait to meet her.
I love that. It's really connecting. You can say, I know you're saying future you, but it's almost connecting with that higher self, right? It's like we're always, almost working to get our current self in alignment with our higher self. That's kind of how I heard it.
Yeah.
So the future you. So I know you shared lots of gems and golden nuggets during our interview today, but what's the number one success strategy or tip you would give to the women, who they're in their early phases of building their business, right, our listeners? So if you had like one thing that you're like, please do this, go about it this way, what would that be?
Yeah. I think that I have so many, but my number one tip would probably be, I feel like it wouldn't be me if I didn't say this, but my number one tip is to not lose yourself in the business. It's so easy to get burnt out as an entrepreneur. It's so easy to continue, because you're passionate about this. You want this business to work. And it's so very easy to, especially in those early days and months and years, it's so easy to work, 16 hours a day, to work through weekends, to not take a lunch break. I know in the very beginning, my entrepreneur stages, like I was so pale because I didn't go outside. I was always in the house. And, now I'm realizing that, I tell people all the time, if it's going to cost me like my health or my family or my sanity, it's not worth it. I don't want it. So if I can't achieve success without sacrificing one of those three, my health, my family, or my sanity, I don't want it. And you have to really become firm with that, because sometimes people will, they want success so bad that they are willing to sacrifice one of those three. They are willing to, go a little nuts, as they are chasing this goal. They are willing to not sleep and let, all of the effects that has on the body happen to them. And so I wouldn't be, a self-care coach and running a self-care business if I didn't say that, my number one goal, or my number one tip, I should say, is to really make sure that you are taking care of yourself. That means, setting a time. I had to set an alarm on my phone. Every day, 9:30, it goes off. It's my go-to-bed alarm. And I have to turn off all the screens, shut down my computer. I'm not working, past then. And I don't work, all day up until 9:30. But if I happen to hop back on to do some emails, that is my cutoff point, 9:30. So if you have to do things like that to make sure that you're setting some boundaries for yourself so that your life doesn't just become work, 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 work. Shout out to Rihanna. If you have to do those things and set those boundaries, then do that. Because what I don't want is for you to burn yourself out so quickly that you end up not being able to give 100% to your business, and then it collapses anyway.
Such valuable advice. Another one of our Black Women CEO experts shared how, we shouldn't build our business on top of burnout, overwhelm, or frustration. And you're basically saying the same thing, right? And also I heard you say, know your non-negotiables. And do this in a healthy way. Like, I burnt out on the road. You shared in your book how you burnt out early on being the solopreneur. And it's hard to recover from that. So just avoid it altogether, everybody.
Yeah.
just don't do it. So, Tara, thank you so much for spending the time and sharing your wisdom and your strategies and just your journey. It's such an inspiring journey, and I know all our Black women CEOs out there will get so much from it. So how can the women stay connected with you and learn more about you and your business, and just, maybe even get in your circle in your community?
Yeah. So you can check out more about the box at theselfcarebox.com. If you go to bit.ly/theselfcaresuite, you can gain entry to our private Facebook support group if you just want, to be surrounded by women who are all dedicated to their own self-care. I invite you to come and join us. We have weekly challenges, monthly giveaways, and just a whole lot of fun. So those are the two areas that I would recommend you come and check us out.
Yes, and definitely check it out. I enjoy the Facebook group. It helps me a lot with the self-care piece and just the womanhood stuff, right? Just learning how to balance it all. So thank you so much, everybody. And all this information will be below in the show notes so that you can stay connected with Tara and learn more about her and her self-care expertise. So thank you for joining us. And this is Quanisha Green signing off with our Black Woman CEO podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and for more Black Woman CEO wisdom and expert tips, please visit blackwomanceo.com. So this is your host, Quanisha Green, signing off. Until next time, remember, power is the ability to create your reality.